this computer. Let's go. All right, welcome guys. Welcome to session number 2 of course number 1, Form Titan Essentials. So this course is purely based on the basics, and you'll learn a lot more about how to maneuver within Form Titan, work with different elements, and what sort of stuff is available in there. So I'll run through the 45 minutes of this session, talk you through some stuff, and then if we get time at the end, we'll do some Q&A as well to see what everybody thought and get some feedback, and we'll take it from there. All right, so welcome. This is the form builder. I'll go ahead and create a new form, and then I'll show you some of the stuff it can do. Okay, when you get to this place here, there are a number of options: blank, template, wizard, Salesforce, from URL. Now, all of them mean something, but to start off with, as a beginner, I would recommend you select blank and click create. And this is what the layout looks like. You get a submit button by default, so you can move that out of the way just to start off with. And then the story sort of begins from here, really. On the left-hand side, you've got all the elements you can search on. And these, anything within Salesforce plus more, you can search on the left-hand side. So let's say the terminology in Salesforce for pick list is pick list, right? But if you type pick list, you will get the Form Titan version here, and it will call it a drop down, okay? Really as simple as that. And let's just take another example, like a lookup. So you type lookup, there's your lookup. And yeah, let me just expand these categories so you get a good idea of what they will look like. So that, yeah, all of these, to start off with, you won't know them by heart, but as you progress your journey with Form Titan, you will know them by heart. And anything you're looking is on the left-hand side, and you can either type for them. Anything Salesforce related is under here as well, but they all differ. So like, for example, you type for text box, there's text box, text area, all that stuff there. So any element that you're looking to drag onto the layout is on the left-hand side. So that's the elements, and that's how you choose your canvas. So blank and select your fields. Now it's time to move them onto the layout. So let me just zoom out a little bit so I can show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is my layout, and it's simple. I can drag and drop any field. So let's say I was to get full name. This is just first name and last name. You just simply drag onto the layout. Okay, let's just get another field. Let's get like an email. And I'm going to scatter them everywhere at the moment, and I'll show you some cool stuff that you can do with them. Let's get a phone field, for example. Okay, so let's just take these couple of fields here for now. So there are a couple of things you can do right away. You can modify these fields, you can delete them. There's a lot of stuff you can do with them. I'll start off with some very small basics here. So let me just get rid of this quickly. I'm going to use text just because there are additional fields that I can use with that. So on the right-hand side, you can go ahead and add labels like first name. A good practice that we would always recommend is to go ahead and add a tag. Now, how do you add a tag for every field? This is how you do it. So you click on the field. I'm just going to get one more field so I can demonstrate my point. And I'll tell you what, we'll just get rid of all these fields. I'm going to do it from scratch. Let's get like an email field. Let's say we've got 2 email fields here, right? And now this is the point of tagging them. They both may have the same label, but how do you differentiate them? You differentiate them by going on the right-hand side under advanced and adding a tag to them. You can even add comments, developer comments, if you wish to do so. So for example, I can call this field primary email, and then I can call this field secondary email. This is a really good practice because obviously I know you can differentiate these by using the FLD, but tag just makes it so much more easier to find these fields. And right now it's kind of simple. You got one page, but only 2 fields, so it's easier to identify them. But what if you had 2,000 fields or hundreds of fields? How can you differentiate them? This is where the tag functionality comes in. And I'm going to quickly show you why this is important. Let's say if I go to form, I'll do a push or a get, either one, it doesn't really matter. and I'll just show you where tagging comes in handy. So don't worry about this so much for now. I'll go into this later. Let's say I go to map some fields. On the left-hand side, you can see the tag has come through. So obviously the label is email, but now you can tell which one's secondary email, which one's primary email. And this is where the importance of tagging really just comes into its own, because you can set up hundreds of fields, you can tag them all in a unique manner, and then identifying them becomes a breeze. And not only in the mapping area, even if you're writing conditions, like you can just click on the field, go to conditions, you can choose any criteria. I'm just going to choose a random one for now. Even finding them is super easy because you know you've given them a unique tag. If you're using page break, for example, that's another good solution, because if you're using page break like this, you may add another page here, and then you may add another fields here like this. A good way then to give them a tag is just write them like this. So you can say advanced, you can say PG1 email, and then you can do PG1, means page 1 really. And then for page 2, you can do the same. You can say PG2 email, and then PG2. And that way, if you want to do push or a get on a specific page, you just have to type the word PG1 or PG2 or 10. And then that way, they will all come up individually for you to have a look at. So that's the value of tagging. Highly recommend that you tag field and you get into this practice right away, because it's important. It will save you a lot of time in the long run as well. So that's the tagging functionality. Let's talk about how do we align fields, what some of the stuff we can do with it. So ignore this. On the top right here, I've got this toolbar and it does a bunch of stuff here. So I will show you one by one what each does. Let's get a couple of fields here onto the layout. Let's get a text box. Let's get another text box. And then I'll get like an email field. Okay. Right, so there you go. So I've got my text box here, and I'll just go ahead and give them a quick label, first name, last name, and then we'll work through this toolbar. It's a super handy toolbar. Let's just say I end up deleting this field by accident. All you can do is undo, and now it's back, okay? So that's what the undo option does if you end up deleting something by mistake. If you want to duplicate or copy a specific element, you can just click on the copy, and you can just duplicate it. And there you have, just make an easy work for another element. From there, you've got a bunch of options, like if you want to cut and paste from one page to another, you have standard cut and paste working for you as well. If you'd like to delete an element, so I'll just get this element and demonstrate here. If you want to go ahead and delete this, just simply click delete, okay? Now let's talk about aligning these elements. Yeah, we can put them all onto the layout, but how do we align them correctly? This is where this align option comes in. Currently, it's grayed out because we haven't selected anything yet. So it's really important to select your elements that you're looking to align, and then this option will become visible. So let's say I'm going to choose 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now you can see this option becomes visible. Now, you've got a bunch of options there. So you can align vertically or horizontally. So let me show you how all of them work. So let's try vertically first. So if I go left, these are now aligned left, okay? And then same way, I can do line center. These will align center. And then let's undo one more time. And then you can align right. Okay, so these are vertically, but what if they were horizontal? Again, the same principle. So let me get these fields in and I'll show you how they work. Ignore this one for now. So let's say these are horizontal fields right now. I can go and highlight them, and then I can say top, and now horizontally they are stacked on the top. Let's undo. and highlight them again, you can go ahead and do middle. This is how they look like in middle. And then if we highlight them all again, and then choose bottom, they align towards the bottom. So when you've got tons of fields that you're working with and you want to align them, this is a fast way to do them in a batch, or just 1 or 2 fields, depending on whatever your options are. Next up, I want to talk about manual spacing. There's automatic spacing and there's manual spacing. I'll talk about manual first. Let's say I've got tons of fields onto the layout and I want to space them out correctly, but I don't want to sit there and do this, like sit there waiting, making sure every ruler is correct. It's very time consuming. So the fastest way to do it is to go ahead and highlight everything. And then once you've highlighted it, there's something called spacing. And again, we've provided you spacing, which is horizontal and vertical. So it's horizontal and vertical, and you can go ahead and amend the spacing. So let's say make same, but that's a good example, but I'll show you like an extreme example. Let's say I'll go ahead and say space them out by 50 pixels each. You can see now it's spaced out 50 pixels each. So, and then you can even do them horizontally if you wish. So let's say, again, you can do 100 like that, or you can just say, you know what, I just want no spacing between it. So that's how you can do it vertically. Horizontally, same premise. Let's say I've got these 3 fields here, horizontally here, and I want to decrease the space in between them. You just simply go ahead, horizontal spacing, let's say is 0, and now there's no spacing. Or if I want to do like 20, this spacing. So yeah, so if you want to do manual spacing and you've got tons of elements, then vertical and horizontal spacing is the best way to go. So yeah, those are like with different elements. As you start to build your forms, the fields will increase, and chances are, you know, you're fighting for space, and you need to make sure that there is enough space, because if there isn't, and they're overlapping with each other, this is going to be a problem. Because if you write conditions, they won't work, because last thing you want is elements overlapping each other. So this is really important, and it's really important to space them out evenly. Next up, let's talk about grid. So grid is a pretty cool feature because it just allows you to accurately add elements, but you can also place them nicely as well, anywhere you want. This is a complete, like a personal thing. If you like to use grid, you can use grid here, but if you don't, I don't like to, so I'll just get rid of the grid. Next up is find. This is a really important feature for a number of reasons. Let's say you have 2,000 fields onto the layout, and you can't find that field, or you need to know what it is. What you can do is you can type like this, email, and you click it, and it will point you to that field. Really, really important. Because when your form gets big, and you need to know if a certain field is causing you an issue, it's really important to be able to find it right away, rather than having to sit there and think, okay, where is that field? And all you do have to do is start to just type in the first couple of letters, and you will find that field, and it will highlight it for you automatically. So yeah, very, very handy feature. It's really important to know this, because you will lose fields every now and again. So it's good to know. Next up is a lock feature. Now, why is this important? Let's say you've done your form, and you know it's ready to go to production, testing. You don't want to make any further changes to any of the elements, and you certainly don't want the people moving them around. So here's what you do. Let's say you build out this form, looks pretty cool, and you've got it all together. What you can do is this. You can go ahead and say lock all, and then go ahead and save. And what this does is now nobody can really move this. So they're really in place. And you can do that individually as well. So for example, I can just select this element here, and I can say unlock selected. And now this is unlocked, and I can move this around wherever I want. and vice versa. And then obviously you can say unlock all, or you can also do unlock selected here as well, unlock all or lock selected. So this is really important. Why? Because again, when your form is ready, the last thing you want to do is something to go out of place, and then it looks messy, and then it just causes you more work. So the best thing to do is once your form is ready, shut it for a lockdown, and then no fields can be moved, and people can then go ahead and test the form as per the form itself. Next, what we'll talk about is drop correction. And this is where you automate your elements, spacing, as you see fit. So I'll give you a quick example here. So let's say we get rid of, first thing first, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say drop correction, top, bottom, and I'll set it to 10 pixel each for this. Okay, so let's save this. Let's say, here's my first field. I'm bringing it onto the form. It's over here. Then my second field, I'm going to bring it right underneath, but you can see that it's automatically spaced itself out with 10 pixels. And that's what drop correction does. Really cool feature because you don't then have to worry about the spacing because it's done automatically for you. So you can just simply drag it underneath. You don't have to worry about it. Just leave it and then it will automatically adjust itself. And same on the horizontal as well. It will go ahead and adjust itself. With every time you move an element, it will preserve the space for you. However, if you hold and just keep on holding, it will delete, it will get rid of that space. So again, just like that, it's done it. Really, really handy feature. And you can set up the pixel to whatever you wish, really. And you're good to go. One of the things that I really want to talk about is the question marks. And the best way, and these question marks are everywhere on almost every feature that we have within Form Titan. So right here, and if I show you, go to optimization, look at that, all of these have question mark. And here's why they are important. And if you're a beginner, it's especially important for you because you're learning, it's a huge platform and you want to know about every feature. And rather than contacting support, you have something very, very nice to you, available to you. So if you ever see help like this is like a high level feature where we show you in depth what the actual feature does. And then the question mark is specific about that feature, what it does. And it comes with a really nice video as well. I'll give you a quick example. Let's say we're going to do a push. And you want to know, what does create do? What does update do? What does find do? What does delete do? What does ignore assignment rules mean? You just simply click on the question mark and it will take you to the video. And the videos aren't that long. They're about, on average, they're about 3 minutes each. But it will tell you specifically what that question mark does. So you get your answer right away and then off you go. You learn something new as well. So keep in mind with all these question marks, especially with need help, again, look, it's in depth here. It will tell you what it does. You just simply click on it and it will tell you. So if you're ever confused, like, oh, I don't know what this does, click on the question mark because chances are this will give you your answer faster than maybe even contacting support as well. So that's that, and that's the drop correction where you can just simply tell how much spacing you want within an element, automate that, and you're good to go. So that's the drop correction side of things. Now I want to talk about this here, and this is where you've got desktop, okay? Desktop, tablet, mobile, and mini. And what does all of this actually mean? So I'll explain right now. So let's say I'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and create this form. And I'm going to add some space, add some stuff in there. Uncheck this for now. Let's say I'll add email. Let's say I add phone number. Like this. And then let's say I add address. Move this submit button as well. Okay, let's say I add address. Okay, this is your desktop version. So it looks good. You're ready to go. You've got it available for anybody to see. But what if you want to set this to mobile? And this is something that every admin should know, that if your form, in my case, the form isn't that big. Okay, so it could get away with being on any different device. However, sometimes you may want to set it up for a tablet, for a mobile, or even a mini. So I'll take mobile for an example. So let's say I click mobile. Form title will say, would you like us to auto arrange the mobile layout? So if you click yes, please, it will try and arrange it in the best way it knows, and it will set it up for you. So it's done a really, really good job here. However, it's not always accurate, because when your form is big or it's got tons of stuff, it can be pretty hard for the auto layout to do all of this really correctly. So in this case, it's done actually a really good job because it's adjusted it. But if it isn't adjusted, then it's up to the admin to go ahead and sort that out. So I'll increase the size page here for a second. Let's say I'll set this to 2000. And you can see the submit button has ended up all the way up there. So I need to move this. All right, so I'll move this here, okay? And this is now my mobile view ready. And within mobile, you'll get a bunch of options like auto scale. And what does this actually mean? I'll give you a quick example. So if I go ahead and publish this form right now, and then let's see, this is the desktop version, but then if I inspect and put this into a Google mobile, you can see that it's nice, but there's tons of space on the right-hand side and even on the left-hand side here, okay? But if you want the form to stretch out, then what I would recommend is you check auto scale, okay? This is where form title will adjust it for you. So if I now go ahead and refresh this, you can see the fields are nicely stretched out. There's not that much space, and it's really taken over the form nicely. So this is a version for the mobile, and it will automatically adjust itself as per whichever device your end user will access. And then from there on, you can set it up in a tablet or a mini. That's completely optional to you. But in order to do that, you will need to go each of these views and go ahead and set it up as well. And then you should be good to go. And then as soon as your end client accesses the form, whether it's on a tablet or on a mobile, your layout is ready to go because you've already done the hard work up front. So that's so much around the mobile side of things. Let's talk about Salesforce and what we have available. So I'm just going to switch back to desktop right now. And let's say we've got our fields here at the moment. And how does it work? Actually, before I do that, I want to talk about styling, because that's really, really important as well. It's a good subject. So let's say I've got my fields here at the moment. Any field that you click on the right-hand side, you will get its own tab. It will be called Element. And below it, you will get two tabs, Settings and Style, okay? Settings, you'll get tons of options. Again, each of them have got a video, so I do recommend you check it out if you're confused about any of them, okay? And then what you can do is on the right-hand side, you've got something called Style. And this is where you can really play with the attributes of each of these elements. I'll give you a quick example. I'll take address here. It's a big one to choose. So here I can choose street address. I can say the background, let's say, will be red, and then the text will be, black, and then the font will be white, for example, okay? And then I can say address 2, the background will be green, and then the font will be green, and then the background can be yellow. So this is important because it's a given. You will want to add styling for any elements that you have on board. So the magic way to look at it is just think about any element, click on it, and then if you want to style it, always go for element, style, and then apply style to. And you will get tons of options in here. You will get the element itself, which is this, the label, which is this, and then you can even modify the label. You can change the background to be anything you like. So you can set this like blue, green, whatever color that matches your own branding. So that's the label element, and then you got floating labels as well. So this is how they work. So if we go to general, go to style, and then you check floating labels, and now your labels become they come into their own elements. And I'll show you how this works. And if I click into it, the label floats back up. Looks really, really nice feature. And then you can add that onto your form title layout as well. So anything that you want to style, if you want to change the font, the padding, the border, you want to add some CSS, all the options are on the right-hand side. And this one's really cool because let's say you want to move this element over here. So let's say we'll take this element. Every time you move an element, it will tell you its size and position, where it's the X and the Y. And then if you want to move this one, you can just go to the size and position and then move the X and the Y like this, right? And then it just comes underneath it. And it's really, really handy to know because you can change the X and Y position for axis for per element. You can also change their width and height. So let's say if I want this to be 400, I can do that. If I want this to be 250, I can do that. And everything else as well. Next up, we'll talk about tab order. And this is where the users will come in and start to tab into each of the fields. And you want this to be pretty smooth and make sure that they're going into the right sequence. So there are a few ways to do this. You can either go ahead and click on Tab Order Wizard, and it will set up the tabbing process for you. However, if you move fields around back and forth, this may get out of order. So in order to fix that, what you can do is this. You can click on the field, go to size and position, and you can set the tab order. Like this one has 1, this one has 2, this one has, we'll set this to 3, this one will be, let's see what's with this one here. So this one won't have a tab order because there's 3 different fields. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. So look, this is how it works. If I go ahead and preview, yeah, 1 second. Oh yeah, of course. So I'll choose the area code for now, and then you can set the tab order to be 4 here. And then let's say if I go ahead and refresh this form, and this is my first field, if I tab now, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can set this to be 5, to be 6. So yeah, there are a few ways of doing this. You can either use the tab order wizard and it will do it for you. However, if that's out of place and you really need to know, okay, how do I set this up manually? This is the best way to do it. Click on the element, make sure the element is chosen in the style too. Go to size and position, and then make sure you set your tab order as well. So that's the style side of things, and these options will vary per element. So like if I select this one, you've got way more options in here. So be mindful that it's not a standard script per element, that it will differ per element. So you make sure you style it correctly and make sure you style it as per your needs. And if you can't find anything, be sure to check your list. Make sure that you haven't missed it in there. Okay, that was styling and the elements and all the toolbar that does. Next up, I want to talk about just a few small things before I move on to Salesforce. If you want to populate your URL and you want to change this bit here, I'll show you where this is done, okay? So on the right-hand side under Form URL, you can amend the URL, the post URL that comes up the actual domain. So you can just call this, I don't know, like demo form, something like that. And then you can save it. And look, if I now publish, it looks like demo form, okay? So this is where you can change the part of the URL. Then we talk about theme. Theme is really, really important. So here you can, we provide you tons that you can use if you want to use, but you can also create one yourself. And this is really, really cool because it will save you time. It will save you time in the future. So if you just have one theme for your company, you can just go ahead and create it. And for that, you need to go into a theme builder and go ahead and build it there. And I'll quickly show you where that is. There you go, it's called My Themes. And you go in there and you can go and create a new one. And once you've created this and applied it, you can then go back into your form builder and then apply that theme into any form that you wish. And this is a super handy functionality as well, because it will save you a lot of time if you have a theme already in place and you don't have to do it over and over again. So these are like general stuff, and then you can obviously change your form name, add form description. I've just quickly been asked a question, can all the URL link be changed? The answer is, the only bit you can change is this bit here, which is your domain. This will stay as it is, .form title, and you can change this to whatever you wish. I'm not going to change this because I've got some very important forms linked to it, and I don't want them to be changed. But you can change the domain URL here, the domain URL, and then you can change the post URL here as well. So these are your two assets available. Now let's talk about Salesforce integration. So let me just get rid of this, and then I'll get a new address field. Okay, after you've done your design and you've done everything and you feel like, okay, I'm ready to go to put data into Salesforce, obviously make sure they are nicely tagged. So I'll tag them right now. I'll say first name, call this one last name, call this one email, phone, and then we'll call this one address. Okay, very, very simple. Now, what you need to make sure is, in order to do a Salesforce integration, you need to understand what each of them actually do. Okay, so where you'll find this is under Form, Settings, Salesforce Integration. Just always remember that. Get used to that, Form, Settings, Salesforce Integration. I often see a lot of users, they get confused, where is my Salesforce integration? It's always under Form, Settings, Salesforce Integration. And from there on, you've got a couple of things there. One's called Push. This means writing data to Salesforce, and Get means reading data from Salesforce. So it's really important to remember. Push, writing data to Salesforce. Get, reading data from Salesforce. So if I go to a push, let's say we were creating a contact or anything. You'll go in there, you'll add an object. Here, you have to make sure that you're authenticated with Salesforce. And once you are, you can select your object. Could be custom or standard object, it doesn't really matter. Okay, it could be any object. I'm going to choose contact. And then you want to add a comment. This is really important. I'll tell you why it's important. Let's say I click apply, and then I go ahead and multiple other contacts. How do I know which one's doing which? Right? It can be very confusing, and it often gets neglected, and then it comes and bites you in the backside later, because you're like, okay, well, I've done all of that, but I don't know what each of them actually mean. So it's really important to add a comment and show what it's actually doing. So this is what the comment's designed for. You can go in there and say, this is creating a contact. That's it. Something very simple. All right. And then if you apply, you can see the comment has actually come into its own. So it's really important to go ahead and add a comment to each of the push or the gets you do. Next up is, there are a bunch of actions. There's tons going on here. I won't be able to cover everything. As I said, be sure to check out, click on the question marks, and you'll be able to find out what they actually do. So what do these actions actually mean? And I'll run through them briefly. Create means it's simply creating a record in Salesforce. That's it. Updating means it's going to update an existing record in Salesforce. And every time you click on these options, you have more options appearing here. And look, Form Titan is built purely on its customers. So all of these things that are in there are doing something. So it's really important to kind of get the idea and watch, just take a time to watch these videos, because it will do a couple of things. It will educate you, and it will also give you more options to play with. So when you've got tons of options to play with, you can choose the best one and go along. In Form Titan, there are multiple ways of doing one thing. So the more you sort of grasp the system and get the idea by watching each videos, the better your understanding will be, and the better and more dynamic you can build a form, and more clever piece of logic that you can build as well. So update simply updates the data. Find, it finds a record in Salesforce, and delete, it deletes a record in Salesforce. Okay. In this instance, all we're going to do is we're going to create a record in Salesforce. Very, very simple. Okay. Next up is a rule condition. Now, what does a rule condition actually mean? It means that it must meet a criteria, otherwise this push will not be pushed to Salesforce. Give you a quick example. Let's say I want to write a rule condition. I'm going to say if email field is empty, if the user doesn't fit, if this field doesn't have an email, don't do the push. I don't want the data going in there without an email. So in order to do that, I go to the push, I look at which push I'm creating, then I set up a rule condition. I say my email is not empty. Okay, so now when this form gets executed and your end user is clicking on submit, form titling is going to go ahead and evaluate this criteria. It's going to say, you know what, the field this here has got an email, so I'm going to go ahead and push the data into Salesforce. However, if I fill out everything else, like Joe blogs, add like random numbers in here for now, and then I go ahead and click submit, this is not going to work because it hasn't met my criteria here. So that's why the rule condition is there. And there are multiple options you can do within a rule condition. You can say equals, like it has to equal something. It doesn't have to equal, it must contain something. Not contains, minimum length, maximum length, is empty, is not empty. So yeah, tons of options here. And from here on, you can really add dynamic conditions to this rule condition. And to do that, you click on the bottom left, add new condition. Okay, so you've got a few options there. So if I'll just increase some stuff in it. You can say email is not empty and first name is not empty. Or you can say or last name is not empty, or let's say address is not empty. So you can really build up the query in here so that when the user fills out all the details, they know that, you know, if the criteria isn't met as per your needs, then it will go ahead, it won't execute it. It's as simple as that. And you can really get clever with this. So you can even use brackets, open brackets, close brackets. Let me get rid of this. Yeah, so you got tons of these options available and you can play around with these and build your rule condition dynamically. I won't add in rule condition for now, so I'll just leave it. Next up is the mapping process. It's a very simple process. So I'd like you to focus on this one here, the Salesforce mapping and form mapping. Salesforce mapping means that if this is toggled to Salesforce mapping, it will show you all the fields in the object that we've selected. So in my case here, I've selected contact. It's going to show me all the fields available in the contacts object on the left-hand side, okay? However, some may feel that, you know what, I don't need to see all the fields. I just want to see my form fields and then map my Salesforce fields according to those fields. In that case, you just simply switch it to form mapping, and now you've got all the fields on the form available on the left-hand side, and then your Salesforce fields on the right-hand side. So now I can just map it. I can just say first name, last name, email. I can even choose phone. Just use mobile phone for now. And then I can just go ahead and map the address fields, okay? So I can just say mailing street, mailing city, mailing state, postal code, and then country. Okay, so these are all my fields that are mapped, okay? And if you just want to see the breakdown of which fields you've mapped, then we've got this functionality here on the right-hand side. You've got tons of options here. You can say, okay, show me all my mandatory fields. I haven't made them mandatory, so you won't be seeing anything here, but you can say, show me all my fields that I've mapped. And if you select that, it will only show you the fields that you've mapped so far. So if you're looking to check and see, have I mapped all my fields correctly, then here you can do it. And then here you can also see, show me all the not mapped fields. And then these are the fields that you haven't mapped as well. So really, really handy functionality again over here. And then you've got filter available as well. You can type just about any field name and it will come up. This will save you a lot of time because you can, let's say you're working with 300 fields and you just want to, rather than scrolling up and down on the list, you just want to type it up and then simply just map it, then this is a great process. You just go and type in and boom, you're good to go. And then what I'd like to talk about is on the right-hand side, what this configure means. I'm going to take email for an example. I think it would be a good way to explain that. Let's say there are tons of options here, okay? You can say, use this value when your original value is empty. So if email is empty, I can just say, you know what, just use this default value here, which is called support@formtitan.com. So every time that field is empty or the user won't bother entering their email, the system will automatically insert this as a default value, okay? You can say don't use, that simply means you won't use that field at all. Don't use for updates. So if you're updating a record and you don't want to update this field, you can just say don't use for update. You can say don't use this field for create, use null if empty, and replace BL with CRLF. So all of these options are available. Play around with these, get a good feel for them because they're really, really handy. And then within the field themselves, you will get tons of options as well. So let's say I switch to Salesforce mapping quickly and I go into my form fields, okay? From here on, you'll get tons of options. Let's say I look for created, anything date related. Let's take birth date, for example. If you want to use today, like today's date, then you've got tons of options available here. You can use today's date. You can write conditional, okay? You can say if current field first name equals this or contains this, then use the value from this field. You can really write dynamic conditions in here, okay? Then let's get rid of this quickly and this as well. And then we also have system values available as well. So you can use today's date if you want. You can write your own custom date if you want in here. You can use a submission date. These are just merge fields from within the form. So when I go back to my point that are there 300 ways of doing one thing, the answer is yes. And it's all about you finding the best fit for you, but be aware that it's always good to try something new as well to find a solution. So you've got custom available. You can, this is a famous one, which is called other. Let's say you have a record type that you want to insert into Salesforce, a specific record type. So what you do is you look for record type ID, you type other, okay? And then you paste your record type in here. So I'll give you a quick example. Let's say I log into my org right now. And then I go to setup. Go to object manager, and let's say I go to contact. Let's go to contact. Let's say I go to record type, say on the left-hand side. Now there is only one available, but if I go into this record type, on the top in the URL here, you can just copy this and you can add it in here, and now we'll make sure it will insert per that record type. So if you have like 10 or 5 different record types and you just want to insert it into a specific record type, then this is what I would recommend you do. This is, again, one of the ways of doing it, but there are multiple ways of doing this as well. So really good feature, the other. It will really open up a lot of options for you. Once you've mapped the field, click apply. Then you've got messages. So you can show error messages to a user, or you can map the error messages to a hidden field, for example. So when you push the data, Form Titan will use the API to query Salesforce. And if there's an error message, Salesforce will return the error message, and then you can show this to a user. Or you can write your own custom error message, for example, like last name is missing, or anything like that. Again, to find out in depth, I'd recommend you check out these videos again, because it's really handy to know these. And you can also map them to a hidden field as well, if you wish. Payment integration is not part of this for now, so we'll get past that. So there's my mapping, there's my action. I'll go ahead and click apply, finish, click save, and then we can go ahead and create a record. We can just call this, we'll just call this demo blogs demo@ftpage.com. So add some random address in here. States. Okay, once you've done all of that, your end user is going to go ahead and click submit. Now, what happens after they submitted it? Do I go into Salesforce, keep refreshing and waiting to see what happens again? Yeah, sure, it's one way of doing it, but there's a faster way to kind of know what's going on. And that is under Form Salesforce Integration. Remember, Form Salesforce Integration, under push, under the get, it's called integration logs, okay? And this is where you find out the story of what's happened with a specific submission, okay? In my case, it has failed. So you see this is an error message from Salesforce. It's saying, you know, this isn't a valid record type. So it's gone ahead and given me an error message. So it's really important that when you get an error, you want to know what's actually happened. So when it's happened, it's really important to know where it's happened. So you go to your integration logs, and that's where you learn what sort of error message it is, what is it doing, and then you can debug it from there on. And if you're on a chat and you want to know, okay, you know, I'm on a chat, you can give us this error message and we can debug that very, very quickly for you. So integration logs is where it's at. So we know that's the error message. Now we're going to go ahead and fix it, right? So we'll go back in there and we'll take out the record type like this. Okay, we'll click apply and finish, save. Now, if that submission's failed, you can go to the submission, you can resubmit it, okay? There are a few ways of doing it. You can either just resubmit it directly from here, if you wish, and you will see, if you're storing, by the way, this is if you're storing data with us, but if you're not storing data with us, don't worry about this. It's not that bothered. So what you need to do is, if it's failed, go to push integration and then just click push. Now it's going to go ahead and process it for me, okay? It's going to say, okay, I'm processing. So go ahead and process. And now let's see in the integration log what's happened. You can see there is a contact record created. And you notice it'll give you a record ID, the Salesforce record ID. So you don't have to bother going into Salesforce and look for it everywhere. You can just simply click on this and it will take you there. So here you are, it will take you to Salesforce and there's a demo blogs created. Looks really nice and you're good to go. So that's the push. In the next couple of sessions, we'll talk about the get and we'll get a bit more further as we cover the course. I'd like to take some time now to answer some questions that our users have. So if you want to post any more, post it in the chat and hopefully I can get through them as quickly as I can. Okay, so first question here, can all the URL link be changed or it must have Form Titan? It has to have Form Titan. That's part of our form. Obviously, the two that you can amend is one is over here, which is your subdomain, your domain. And then you can amend the latter part of the URL directly within the form builder itself. Next up, Betty, you wanna add anything to this, Betty?
Yeah, sitting too silently. You can embed the form, so user will not see the URL as well.
Yes,
so this
correct.
This is also an option. Yeah.
Yeah. So for embed, you click on publish, and you will either get an iframe option or the embed script that you can add onto your website, so the user will never end up seeing the URL at all. Anybody else have any other questions? Now is your chance.
Yeah, they're asking about like multi-form flows.
Yeah.
So how to pass the parameter like between one form to another form.
Sure. So there are multiple ways of doing this. I'll show you a quick way. Like let's go ahead and do like a submit or something. Let's say you want to write a condition, for example. Okay. Let's say you go ahead and set, and then what you can do is in the new form, you can do, so let's say here, redirect / open modal. And within that, you can do what's called set parameters, okay? and you can pass this to another form. So you can pass these fields into another form. But in the other form that you have, you need to make sure what the FLD number is. I'll give you a quick example here. Let's say I've got this form, and on the other form, I'll just go and open like a random form if I've got available here. Let's just take, let's open this one. Okay, let's just take this form. Let's say this field number is FLD15, okay? So if I go back to my original form and I go back in here, let's say, go back to my form. Let's go into the form. Okay, so let's say, I know on the other one, it's FLD15. All I need to make sure is when I redirect and I pass the parameter that I specify the FLD number in there, okay? And then once you've done that, it will go ahead and pass that value into the other form as long as the FLD is specified correctly. And where do you find this FLD? It's right here, okay, under the settings for every element. You click on it and then it will tell you, okay?
Can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
You can also change the FLD number like to your own numbers. If you go to the form settings under view more limits, all the way up. Yep. And then like you have URL parameters. Click configure, and you can say like first name, for example, like FLD5 is FLD like first name. You can give it like a name.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so you can just call this like, I don't know, last name, pass parameter, or anything, whatever unique you want really. And you'll be able to do that directly in here as well. Anything else? Any other questions?
So okay. I ask him, give it like a second, 1 second.
Sure, sure. So if I'm using the same field in different sections on the same form, this will be the solution. Not quite sure what you mean by that, Amir.
Me too.
Could you elaborate a little bit for me, please? Okay, so here's another one. Where can I open and how can I practice with a trial/temporary form Titan environment? Well, you simply just sign up. I'll show you how you do it. You go to formtitan.com. I'm logged in at the moment, but I'll quickly log out. You've got something called sign up, okay? And then when you click on sign up, you can either sign up with Salesforce, with your org, or you can just simply use email and password. It's completely up to you. We don't require any credit card or anything. Just an email and a password and you're good to go.
For Amir, like you cannot have the same field over and over again, so each one is unique. So I'm not so sure what you need.
All right, so if I need to map email field multiple times on the same form, but I would like to have only one element, one FLD, well, yeah, you will need to have multiple fields. You can't use the same, field unless you're talking about sections, I see. Because you're using sections. Okay, for section, it's pretty simple. Let me just log in and I'll show you. With sections, you just carry over the mapping from one section to another as long as the section itself is repeated. Show you quickly how it works. All right, so let's say I've got my, let's just say I'll take full name. I'll just take an email field, okay? Like this, and then I add a section. Like this. I'll just make this a bit bigger. Okay, so now I've got this section. What I can do is I can make this section repeated like this, okay? So now you don't need multiple fields, you just need add, and then they'll be able to add multiple records like that because it's repeating the mapping per section itself. So I'll give you a better example actually, like this. So there you go, like this, like this. You don't need to have multiple records. You just simply get a section, put your fields in it, make it repeated, and you are good to go. Yes, it is only for repeated sections. The way you want to do it, it's only for repeated section. All right, so last chance. Any other questions? All right, so I've got another one here. So earlier, 2 conditions on Salesforce mapping push part. You explained the second step. What about the first one? I saw earlier 2 sets of conditions on Salesforce mapping pushing part. You explained the second step. What about the first one? Okay, you mean the create itself? No, I'm not sure what you mean fully, but I'll come back to it in a minute. Second question, can I create a form that shows a table, not push data with object field, with its related objects or child fields in an easy way? Can this be?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, so listen, this is all in the course, which I'm going to show you guys very quickly. A lot of these questions will get answered as you play with the course itself. Because if I try to cover them now, it just wouldn't be time efficient. So I completely get that, but yes, it can be done, and you will learn that in the course. So without further ado, what I'll do is I'll show you a quick sneak peek on how it looks like, okay? And I'll send out an email shortly where you get access to the course. So look, we built some really nice courses here, and there are lots coming soon, okay? We've got the Form Titan Academy. It's got the essentials. This is the first one you'll be working on as a beginner. You just click on start, and then you've got tons of options available. You learn about layout. You learn about Salesforce. How do I create a record? How do I update a record? How do I read a record? You talk about related objects. This is one of your questions. This is where you learn about multi-relationships. You learn about business logic. You'll learn about smart validation. If you want to access the syllabus, you just click on the syllabus, and I'll give you a quick sneak peek. It's a big syllabus, okay? Look, all of that. All of your questions are pretty much answered in there, and it's for you to consume, have a look, get a feel for it, and really get an understanding of what it does. So we're very, very excited to release this, and this email will be coming out in next couple of minutes, really. I'll release it to everybody. But without further ado, I really, really appreciate it for everyone being here. I hope you've learned something. I'll record this session. I'll put it up if you want to watch it again, and I'll send out an email later. So thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ishai.
Thank you. Bye-bye.